Well, welcome back, Lusketeers. We are so glad to be once again coming to you from the basement where we record this podcast to talk to you.
And if you didn't know, now you know.
Yeah, we do it every week in the basement of a 100-year-old building. Imagine all the history all around us in these walls.
Oh, there's so much history.
It's amazing. It's remarkable.
There's history that we weren't a part of, and there's history that we are a part of, in the sense of all the, like, I literally will sometimes, I call it treasure hunting, when I just go around in the basement and like look for things.
Dinosaur bones, ghosts. If you find any moon rocks, give them back. It's a test. Before we go any further into this episode, and it is going to be a good one, speaking in faith, what we have to talk about today is so important. Just want to tease that out there.
Yes.
We're talking about dating. We are going to get into the nitty gritty of dating for those of you who are in that world, and for those of you who have people in your life who are. Maybe you're a parent to a teenager, a grandparent to a grandchild, or you serve in a student ministry, whatever the case may be. But before we go any further, we do want to mention our Brass Tacks and Life Hacks email.
Yes.
This is a monthly result of scouring the four corners of the internet for anything useful, helpful, practical. If you know me, I live for those things. And there's not a week that goes by that someone in my life doesn't text me and say, what do I buy when I buy blank? And so I kind of take all these great recommendations, put them all together in an email that goes out monthly with any recommendations I have for something to buy.
So good.
So you can sign up to receive that email in your inbox at levilusko.com. And we wish you would. And while you're there, you could ask us a question. Maybe you have a question for the dear Jennie Lusko, and you want to ask her or me, and we can receive those at both of our websites, Jennie Lusko, levilusko.com.
Yeah.
And you can send us a voice memo.
It's pretty easy to do that too.
Yeah, boom. You just take a voice memo right there, your browser. We'll hear your voice asking your question. And it's real fun whenever we get to those. So
it's great. So good. Yeah. And so subscribe too.
Subscribe to what?
Us.
To us. Hey, it's
Us.com.
Subscribe to Hey, It's the Luskos on your favorite podcast platform you're listening to. If you haven't yet, they told us recently that only 5% of our listeners are subscribed. So we get lots of listens on these platforms, but not everybody's here for the subscription. So if you're ready to quit dating and put a ring on the finger, be a Lusketeer for real, then smash that subscribe button. All right, today we are going to have the second part two of last week's conversation. We began with, and by the way, just to preface this with, Jennie and I are running fast, running hard on a little sleep. We woke up at 4 a.m. today, coming back from a movie premiere.
I technically woke up at 3:30 a.m.
Wow, one-upping me. I woke up before. The Uber picked us up at 4:15, so we had time to brush teeth, put deodorant on.
He was the smiliest, kindest Uber driver.
He was a very nice man. Yeah. He was very, very bushy-tailed for that early hour. But we were at the premiere for a movie, and it's probably, as you're listening to this in March, still out. But we saw the Jesus Revolution movie, which was amazing.
Incredible. And
this isn't a sponsored endorsement. We just think it's an amazing movie.
Yeah.
Jonathan Roumie's in it. Kelsey Grammer's in it. It's the true life story of our friends Greg and Kathy Laurie coming to know Christ during the Jesus movement, Chuck Smith's desire to make a way for hippies and outcasts of society to come to know God, the preaching of Lonnie Frisbee, played by Jonathan Roumie, who plays Jesus in The Chosen.
Yeah.
We were at the premiere for it last night, and it was just beautiful.
Stunning.
So
I love it.
If this movie at the time you're hearing this is still in theaters, go see it.
Go see it. Support it.
If you know someone who doesn't know Jesus, what a great thing.
Oh my goodness.
To bring them to.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
You saw
we had a fun
people
time.
Crying in the movie theater. It's beautiful. Chills. Real story. Tons of people coming to know Christ.
A real story.
A real story. It's a spicy meatball. And I couldn't help but marvel at the providence of the fact that while that was playing out, at the time we were watching that, and perhaps even still to this day, there was this powerful move of God happening on college campuses. It kind of started at Asbury and moved out to Lee University and other schools, and just kind of stirred by not looking in the past at hey, there was a Jesus movement,
Yeah.
but just that reminder of Jesus is moving.
Yes.
And the Holy Spirit's blowing on the coals and
Revival.
bringing revival always. God
Yeah.
perpetually remains in a state of revival.
Yeah.
And is looking for those who will have that heart to say,
Upright towards him.
let's go.
Yeah. That's so good. Love it.
So that is a little bit of what we're going on, which is
going on.
little sleep and a lot of excitement.
Yeah. So we'll see how.
There we go. This could go anywhere. But we put a kind of a foundation last week for what we wanted to talk about today.
Yeah.
By telling our story.
Yeah. Which honestly, afterwards, we were talking about this and just how special it was to remember together. And I was just thinking how special that is for our listeners who are married or maybe engaged, but like looking back and remembering how God brought you together. It was really special for me.
Well, and it's one of the assignments we give in our marriage devotional.
Yeah.
One of the first pieces of homework is to sit down together and rehearse your story.
Yeah.
And I love getting to do that with you. So the time of it was perfect. Valentine's Day, as we were recording it last week, leading into Valentine's Day, the whole idea of God's plans for our marriage to be revived and rehearsed and retold. And so we kind of wanted to lay the foundation for pulling some principles out by just giving you a seat in our marriage for a moment to hear us kind of tell our story, how we met, how we fell in love, what the dating process looked like. And so if you didn't listen to that, then this will make less sense if you don't go back. And
yeah, but if you listen to this first, then you'll have like the bones of what we talk about if you listen to last week's next.
Certainly. Yeah. Little things. I mean, obviously you can do it any way you want, but I think this will be more helpful if you have the context of having heard kind of the movements of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's our hope, is to be helpful, to see some things that maybe we did right, or we, by God's grace, avoided some heartache, and how those things can be kind of put into practice. And we preface it all with the reality that it's 2023. We haven't been on a first date in almost 20 years. So
every day is a first date.
Well, that's not true. Every day
In
is
my mind.
a subsequent date. Only if you completely lose your memory does it become a first date again.
No, it's like how we tell our church or our team going into a weekend or an event, like treat this like it's the first time and like it's the last time, with the excitement, the anticipation,
Yeah,
kind of
100%.
that way.
Okay, so what were some of the things that kind of were, Jennie, in your mind, successful as to how we approach dating that can be transferable to someone who's like, okay, hey, I'm here, I'm at the season, I'm ready to start thinking about it. What do I need to be thinking about when I start the conversation of dating?
Yeah. Starting the conversation of dating. Well, I think if we go to maybe, I don't know if this would be first, but knowing that sometimes we're not going to get it right, in the sense of when you and I met, we had just come out of relationships that we thought were the ones for us. And I think just knowing that it's never too late to just kind of hit the restart button. And like, even if you've come out of a relationship, or maybe you haven't dated before or whatever, I think just knowing that it's okay to let God do a restart and a refresh in terms of allowing him to kind of clean the slate, and knowing that we're going to get it wrong and sometimes, and we're going to maybe pick someone who isn't the one, but it's okay to just kind of pull the, what's the thing on the train? The stop string.
I'm just going to let you continue on with the stop string.
The halting harness. But just being like, okay, God, I'm gonna stop this, how I've been viewing dating, and I want to let you be the instructor to me. I want you to lead the way. I want you to guide me in this. And I think knowing that sometimes we learn the hard way, and that's okay.
And I think even what you're saying is, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying,
I'd like to know how you are translating.
No, you're saying we shouldn't interpret it as failure that we dated someone and they ended up not being the person that we're going to marry.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes the over spiritualization of it can kind of, maybe at its worst, keep someone in a relationship they shouldn't be in out of a sense of, oh, I thought this was God's will.
Yeah.
Really, you're just trying. I mean, even like someone as knowledgeable of the Holy Spirit as Paul, he thought he would go to a city and preach. It didn't always work out. So he would try. And if it didn't work, he'd like, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else. I think when we're dating, we can have this maybe overly mystical approach of, oh, this is the one, or they're the person for me, to where we get almost like discouraged by the fact that we're at a place where we realize, hey, maybe this isn't really going somewhere.
Yeah.
And so we feel like either we're a failure, or we, like I said, stay in the relationship that you shouldn't be in. But to try, and I think the Christian community needs to chill out a little bit when two people first go on a date, and not kind of like build this up as something it's not. We're just checking it out. We're just going to see if this is, if maybe God's in it, how we get along, how this kind of goes.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's okay to walk away from a relationship, you're saying, if it's not really kind of.
Yeah, I think so. I think even as parents, like, not that this hasn't happened to us. None of our kids have had boyfriends or girlfriend, but I think sometimes you can, like, someone likes each other. Some people like each other, and then you're like, oh my gosh, they're going to get married. Like, you just immediately like start planning everything. And it's like, okay, like you said, just let things happen and see what God does, and don't rush people. And, I think that's good. But I think that also there is that, like, for us, when we broke up, there's kind of just that laying it before God too, and knowing that He can bring something back if it's His will, and taking the pressure off of, like, we have, like you said, like, having to keep moving forward because this is who is in my life and this is how it needs to be. But I guess just letting God lead is the basis of that. Like, trusting that He's going to lead the way you're meant to go. And if you need to break up for any reason, like, I think for us in particular, like when I broke up with you, that was so hard to do because I didn't want to, but it didn't seem like, it just kind of felt like we were at a stalemate, and it was like, why are we even doing this? And so I think sometimes it's going to feel like maybe you're laying something down that God can bring back if He wants to, but letting Him be in control of it.
Without a doubt. And I think that kind of comes, that emerges something that maybe should be in the background before you even really set out on this journey of dating. And that is having a sense of confidence in who God is, who you are, how that comes together in purpose, in the sense of, you're not really ready to add another relationship into your life romantically if your first and most important relationship isn't established.
Yeah.
And that's the one between you and God.
Yeah.
And so I know we use language like, hey, who's in a relationship? And some people think, well, I'm not in a relationship right now. Well, yeah, you are, regardless of whether you're dating anybody or not. If you're a Jesus person, you're in a relationship with God. Mm-hmm. And if you're not a Jesus person, you're in a relationship with God, which is estranged, right? You're disconnected from your Father. So you're in relationships with your family, you're in relationship with siblings and friends and all these people. You just don't, you're saying you don't have that romantic relationship in your life. And so I think doing that work of getting right with God, because, before you're ready to bring a husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend into your heart, it's getting to a place where you're anchored from that place of I'm doing what I was created to do, which is to bring God glory, to bring God honor. I know for us, we both had come to know Jesus, and we're walking in that purpose of living for God's glory, living for God, and doing what He had called us to do. And when it came to our unique callings, I was doing the youth ministry thing. You were serving God in the missions department, but we were both at a place of knowing our value, knowing our worth in God by ourselves.
Yeah.
So we weren't looking to each other to complete us. We weren't looking for each other to give us significance. And I think that's a really big pitfall. Maybe some people could be spared falling into.
Yeah.
Where you almost think like, oh, if I find this person, that's going to deal with these deficiencies in me.
Yeah.
That's going to make me complete.
Yeah. And I think what that comes down to is our focus. Like, where's our focus? Are we focusing on, like, looking around, like all the relationships, like, okay, is this the one? Or how is this the one in my life or whatever? But if we're focused on Jesus, excuse me, first and foremost, then it's so funny looking back and seeing our relationship, because it just like fell into place. I mean, obviously you did the work of asking my dad to ask me out on a date. Like, you did things, and like, but we were just so focused on what God had us doing that then we literally looked over, and it was like, oh, we noticed each other, and then we were friends. Like, I just think if we don't put that pressure on ourselves to try to find the one, but we just focus on the one, capital O-N-E, he takes care of it. And so I think that that's just so huge for those of you thinking about dating, going into dating relationship, of just focusing on the most important relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the prototype for all this is the first relationship ever, Adam and Eve. This is the first marriage relationship. But Adam was in a relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
He's walking with God in the cool of the day. He's actually fulfilling his unique calling too, in ruling the world, naming animals. And he, out of a place of rest and sleep, wakes up and sees her.
Mm-hmm.
And God had brought this beautiful woman to be his partner, to help him rule the world. All of the things that he was already doing, they're now going to get to do together. And so it wasn't like Adam was frantically searching. And I think sometimes a lot of that energy, takes away from our relationship with God and what we're called to be doing, to search. But that's going to change the kind of person we're going to find, because life attracts life.
Yeah.
And you are going to attract what you are. And so, a lot of people maybe would be disappointed with who they end up settling for, but that's perhaps because taking their focus off of seeking first the kingdom, seeking first the Lord, not resting in that, trusting that, like you said, we're just going to look up and see. Because I think that was kind of what the story we got to watch God write in us was, we were not looking for each other. You were actively choosing not to date. I had kind of, no decision in that regard, but was not like, I'm going to ask. There wasn't other people I dated between the previous relationship and you. And so I think we were both just focused on that. And then it was almost like we looked up and like we said, like, oh, there's the other person doing that.
Yeah.
But that also is because of where we were putting our time and energy.
Right. Right.
It's not like, I was out, at bars and looking, just like trying to find other people like single my age. And well, then I'm going to try and get you to come back with me to church. We were just so focused on what God called us to do. I really do feel like it's like Adam waking up in the garden where he named stuff yesterday. He's going to name stuff tomorrow. Got an appointment with God every day at 6. And then all of a sudden there's someone else there to do those same activities with.
Which is so funny, because now that you're talking about that, about Adam and Eve, like, she literally came out of nowhere. And I think sometimes I'm just imagining, like, listeners who maybe are getting older and they still don't have their person, or they haven't dated or whatever. And I just, like, how would you encourage that person who maybe now they're kind of like, okay, I'm I'm not getting any younger.
Mhm.
And where is my person? Where is my husband, Lord? Like, I just imagine Adam waking up and literally this girl came out of nowhere because God brought her to him. How would you encourage that person who maybe their whole life, like, wanted to get married, wanted to have kids, but now it's like almost seeming like time is running out?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would sympathize and be the first to admit, like, I don't know what that feels like.
Yeah.
We got married young, met each other young. But I do really believe that delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart.
Yeah.
God didn't curse you with singleness, to screw with you.
Mm.
I think if you, I mean, all of us are going to be single at some point. So I think you think, well, I'm not called to singleness. Well, I was called to singleness for a season. You were single for a little while.
Yeah.
So there was those unique seasons. And in those times, we did in miniature what the person you're talking about is doing right now in a longer stretch.
Yeah.
And I would say the principle remains: delight yourself in God. And when you see, when you see him as your all and he's what your prize, there, if that is a desire of your heart, you're going to look up one day and she wasn't there yesterday, or he wasn't there yesterday, but she's going to be there that day.
Yeah.
And on that day, you'll be able to go, oh, well, here we go. And then you kind of start that journey
Yeah.
of we're walking adjacently to each other.
Yeah.
We're aware of each other. And I think, that place is such an important place. We can't overstress that.
Yeah.
That walking with God, he's going to bring about that in his good time.
So good. That's so good. And I think that goes along with trusting him, really trusting him.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, I mean, you talked about this in your message recently about the type of person that we thought we would marry. Like, I think we think of, oh, this is my type, or this is the kind of person that I want. And so you kind of like have that in your mind. But I think really what it comes down to is trusting him and trusting that he has the plan. He's going to provide. He's going to do it in his perfect timing. And I mean, I feel like I'm always quoting this verse, but it's really one of my favorites. And it's a key to our life in Christ, but trusting in the Lord with all of our heart and not leaning on our own understanding, but in all of our ways, acknowledging him, and he'll direct our path. So it's like we might plan things, but as we trust God and surrender to him and acknowledge him in every single thing we do, like in all the things, in our relationships, in our work, in our rest, in everything that we do, trusting him. And then that really just allows us to, like you said, be in a state of rest before God brings that person to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what does striving ever produce that's good? It's when Abraham and Sarah took it into their own hands that they created a work of the flesh, Ishmael and this Hagar situation. And I think a lot of times we do that, especially when we feel like, hey, this clock's ticking here, like you're saying, like that person who's like, hey, I'm pushing 40 or I'm pushing 50 and it still hasn't happened yet, or I'm 26. I'm like, goodness, I'm not a spring chicken. I need to take matters in my own hands. And I think what you're gonna get on the back end of that is not what you're gonna want long term.
Yeah.
And to where you believe like it's impossible to man, but it's possible to God. He already sees the end from the beginning. So I think when you have a comfort level, knowing like, hey, God's already got a plan and I can just walk with him. And when it's time, when I'm ready, it's going to happen in a moment, And I think there's an incredible peace that comes from that. Rest in the Lord, trust he's got a plan. Don't take matters into your own hand. And then you'll get to watch it'll unfold in his good timing, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think also looking at dating and how we think about it and getting ready for it, whatever, really taking a Daniel stance and purposing in our heart going into relationships. So I'm specifically talking about purity and sex and what's our plan going into it. And I think it's so important to have a plan. you talk about this, but having a plan so that when all the emotions and feelings come up in the moment, you can stick to the plan. What
I think that comes back down to, though, because what the formulation of a plan would indicate what's your purpose in dating.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like, what is the purpose in dating this person? What's the goal? If the goal is just to date as many people as you can or get something from them, and of course, then that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But if we're dating for a purpose, to see if this might potentially be someone I'd want to covenant my life to, that it seems like God's in this to where I'm gonna marry this person, then you would want to, do what you're describing and have a plan to protect and to architect and to build and engineer that relationship for that season, for that purpose, so that if you did walk away, there's no regret.
Yeah.
There's no, hey, we have to like duck and, hide, run for cover if we run into that person in the Walmart, parking lot down the road. Where it's like, oh yeah, well, I dated that person and she was cool, he was cool. Like, we got to know each other. Like, there's no love loss. There's no awkwardness. There's no cringe. It might still be hard because maybe you kind of thought this and they didn't. And I think that's really important, that if the relationship has a plan and a purpose, and the purpose is to see and evaluate who this person is and whether they might be a good person to covenant with in this way, then you're not going into it for what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
And you're going to guard and protect your own heart so that nothing's given up that belongs to your future spouse.
Yeah.
So there's no, you bump into them down the road, there's no weirdness.
But do you think that you can not have sex with someone but still have that awkwardness because of how maybe you poured out your heart or you were vulnerable, or like, I feel like there's still, like, I don't know if the goal is necessarily no awkwardness.
No, I think it's a very different, awkward's awkward. Life's full of awkwardness. I'm talking about like mortification, like mortified, couldn't look that woman's husband in the eye.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So what does that look like? Because in your most recent relationship message, you talked about like, until you're married, until you're husband and wife, you're brother and sister with this person. What does that mean? Like, if you're in a relationship with someone, like, I wouldn't hold my brother's hand or kiss my brother. So what does that look like in terms of treating your boyfriend like a brother? Like, it's would you say it's just the mentality of like honoring them and preferring them and not doing something that you wouldn't do unless you were husband and wife?
Yeah, I think that is the goal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the goal is to not start the process of your body getting ready to have sex.
Yeah.
That's what Song of Solomon says, that refrain that's repeated throughout the book. Do not awaken love until it's time.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing things to where the body begins to biologically prepare for having sex, you're getting the engine all turned on and worked up. And if the goal is not to complete and fulfill it, then by nature, I mean, the way I've always described it is you're getting in the car, you're turning it on, you're buckling up, you're revving the engine in park to where your RPMs are going, up to 4,000 or 5,000, and then turning it off and walk without ever driving. Like,
yeah.
That's the equivalent of on your body, the toll of getting all ramped up and then having to stand down. And we all know like what that means, what that looks like. And I think and there's not some rigid, obviously we're talking about the spirit and the heart here, because Jesus said you could look at a woman and lust in your heart.
Yeah.
So you can, with your, significant other, your date, whatever, you could never touch them, but still be sitting inside your heart. So we're talking about a heart condition here. But I think the intention is that until you're married, until that rings in the finger, that you're fighting to protect that sexual innocence, so that you're not revving each other's engines up. If you're not intending, and if you're in that season where you're not married yet, you're hopefully not wanting to do that. So I think that's really
that's good.
That's the easier way than saying, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this?
How close can I get?
Yeah, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
Right? You're saying, my heart is, until you're my spouse, just to treat you and guard you as a sister. So I'm not going to rev the engine up if I'm not going to drive.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating too, right?
Yes. Yes. Well, and I think that was yes, we saved sex for marriage, the gift of sex for marriage. But I remember when, I don't know if it was our first date or it was a little bit later on, but I remember saying, I don't want to kiss until we know all of our kisses are only for each other. And so I don't think we kissed until like
We waited a long time.
8 or 9 months.
And I think you told me later you wish we hadn't kissed till our wedding day, which I think would have made it a lot easier on us.
Totally.
It would have made it a lot easier. Once the introduction of that physical affection got brought in, it just becomes harder to shut it down.
Totally.
Once you have it in there. And so again, this isn't a rigid standard. And but I think what we found was we made it harder on ourselves to do what we had set out in our goal to do.
Yeah. And then we had to like kind of go back and create more boundaries.
Really
like, okay,
boundaries
don't be alone in the car. Okay, don't be alone.
It just
ever.
it just was more difficult to succeed.
Right.
It was like running with a weight in our hand, you know? So
totally.
So I think, but our heart's intention was, and I really loved, like, I mean, what do you think? We dated 3 months without kissing?
No, I feel like it was longer, like 8 months.
Okay. So whatever that was, what was neat about that for us was the friendship period that we had already had of 6 months was now expanded, where there was a sense of commitment because I was your boyfriend. We were dating. We were officially a couple.
Yeah.
But we still were not physically in any way expressing that. I mean, I think we held hands.
Yeah. Our pinkies touched.
Yeah, right. But
on our first date.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I don't know.
But you're confusing me now. With stories that aren't accurate. So you have to give me some signal that you're being facetious.
Oh, no, I remember that.
Our pinkies touched on our first date?
I don't know what happened, but I just remember like there was some like,
contact.
I was like, oh my gosh, our pinkies are touching.
Ah, I see. It's a weird memory.
I know.
But the whole point of it is we had a foundation of friendship to build on that we stand on to this day.
Yeah.
Because here we sit in our marriage, and the intimacy and the physical attraction, all those things are great, and they're a part of our relationship, but they're not the whole thing.
Right.
They're like a cherry on top, and nobody builds a sundae with the ice cream on top of the cherry. It's the other way around.
Yeah.
So what supports us today, what supported us in hardship, in crisis, in pain, in fights, in difficulty, in walls we've bumped into, is not the sexual chemistry.
Right.
It's a beautiful gift. But what we've built on is that friendship.
Yeah.
And I think that's the power in a dating relationship, to really build something that can endure.
Definitely. That's so good.
Because I mean, in a marriage, the average marriage, I would estimate sex composes 1 hour of 5 days a week, right? So that's 5 hours in a week. But you're talking 23 hours most days where you're not having sex. So if you focus during your dating period and your boyfriend, girlfriend period on that almost exclusively, which is what you're trained to, your body wants you to, culture says to, that is to have no plan for what is going to occupy the most of your time married.
Yeah.
So save that. That's great. That's gonna be amazing. But build and have something to do the other 23 hours a day.
This is huge. This is a really huge thing, because I think in movies and TV, like, we see a first date usually end with
them
sleeping together. And I think that this right here is a game changer. And we're not saying if you've messed up before, if you've slept with someone before, that you're like, there's no hope for you. There is hope, and it's never too late to start doing the right thing, but to push for friendship. Like, you can't go wrong with focusing on the friendship.
Yeah. And you don't learn anything about anybody while you're making out. You don't learn anything about them.
Yeah.
I mean, it has a powerful tool to cement the friendship that's there, but it doesn't conjure it up.
No.
So there's no self-control we're learning about. There's no depth of wisdom. There's no vulnerability, dreams, or passion. So where you're articulating and you're finding other ways to build a life together, and or to see where there's not that. Because the real problem is, and I think this is where it kind of you learn to deceive yourself, is if you add in that physical stuff, especially if you start sleeping with that person, but anyway, up into that and including that, you're bonding your heart and confusing yourself and blinding yourself to the potential glaring issues that might be there.
Right. Because you're not having the real intimacy of friendship and getting to know each other and asking questions and that which is actually the friendship. The physicalness of it is making you feel like you're having that.
And
that
it
closeness.
also it's like fogging up the windshield, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can't see out the windshield.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't see what maybe is immaturity, is selfishness, is narcissism. You're not seeing the toxic traits that hopefully dating exists to flush out, so you can go, oh, maybe you're not who God has for me.
Yeah.
Like you blind yourself to those, and you're going to eventually see them. But right now in this infatuation, and then you add in the sexual stuff that just will even cloud the issue even more. Then one day you're going to wake up and go, oh, I didn't see that you're going to say, oh, you changed. You're not the person I married. Well, actually that's exactly who they were.
Yeah.
You
didn't see it.
You clouded up the issue
Mm-hmm.
with that attraction and infatuation and giving into that chemistry and just letting all that kind of numb your vision a little bit. And I think that's part of why God intends the sexual act in marriage to dim your eyes a little bit to those faults once you're in the covenant, right? But if you bring that in early on, you're going to dim your eyes to someone who you should have seen, oh, I never should have allowed God to be in there, in that situation.
Yeah.
So that's just something you'd really want to slow your roll on. Any of that stuff that would awaken that desire before it's time.
Yes. And that's there's so much wisdom, all the wisdom in Song of Solomon when it says that, don't stir up or awaken love. And I think that especially for young people, and I'm just thinking about teenagers, young people who are wanting that relationship, wanting that intimacy, wanting that. How would we encourage them? How would we lead them to purposing in their heart? And how would we equip them?
Well, I think we never want just a negative prohibition.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not just away from something, it's towards something.
Yeah.
So we don't stop thinking about things by saying, I'm not going to think about that. I'm not going to think about that. Right.
Right.
So again, if you're not making out, you're going to have a tremendous amount of time while you're dating. So what are the constructive things you can be focused on in that dating? Well, you want to be talking and learning and seeing and witnessing each other in different ways that would tell you maybe what's written on their soul. Because that's what we're really trying to get to in dating. There's a word in the Greek language that speaks of etching on someone's soul. We're trying to get to see if this person is a man or woman of integrity.
Yeah.
Women, is this a Psalm 1 man?
Mm-hmm.
Men, is she a Proverbs 31 woman? And notice, we've been given these things that have everything to do with invisible attributes that get better with time.
Yeah.
Psalm 1, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor sits in the path of the sinners, nor the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his light meditates day and night. He's going to be like a fruitful tree planted by the rivers of living water, who will bring forth his fruit in good season, right? So this, and whatever he does shall not wither. He's going to prosper.
Yeah.
These are things that are going to get better with time.
Yeah.
Right? I
think that's a key component to it, not looking for someone who is that, but their heart is in that and the potential.
Is becoming that. Yeah,
becoming that. I mean, even Proverbs 31 women, I'm not that person yet.
Oh, stop. But no, all those things are there. And that, again, what I'm going somewhere.
Yeah.
Those, it's not just he's hot, he's he's rich. He's got a place in LA and he's got a place in Charleston. Like those things don't get better with time. And life is cruel and can strip away those things from you.
Right.
Your looks, your health, your wealth, all of these things in a moment can be taken away.
Yeah.
But where there's generosity of spirit and kindness and a love of God and a love of people and not quick to scorn, not quick to judge, not evil, not all those things, they're going to just get better like a fine wine. So your question then is what do we focus on then during the dating to see those things come to the surface?
Yeah.
Well, you have to do things together that would push those things out.
Yeah.
And that means that you need to be shoved a little bit. You need to be shaken a little bit. So I think things like serving together in a ministry, I think like being in a life group together where hard questions are being asked. And that means you have to push back against the desire to just be together and to shut off the world.
Yes.
It's like we've all seen that couple. They start dating and they were super involved in the church on a team or in this or in whatever it was in a friend group. It's like, where are they at? I don't know, man. They must be in a field, like prancing towards each other with the Sound of Music soundtrack playing, or eating pasta, with the one noodle between them. It's like, where are they? They're completely. You're shutting off the people that need to be there in your life to help you.
That is huge.
Determine, and they're going to be the safeguards to the relationship long term.
Yes. Yes. That's so good. With having, and this goes back to our purpose. Like if we are busy about what God's called us to, and we're leaning into our people, into our community around us. And I think that that's what's so safe and beautiful about being in a group of people, especially young people. I think not being so quick to get into a mini marriage, but having your friend group, like always going bowling in a huge group of people, serving and going to things together, I think is just
and it's not that you're not doing
helpful.
It's not that you're not dating, alone and doing stuff, but whether it's skiing together or on a hike or you're doing stuff just the two of you.
Yeah.
Of course, you're at coffee, you're at dinners, you're at things, but you're not shutting off those other situations that are really necessary to really see and discover what's written on that soul.
Yeah.
And that takes a community. You can't find yourself by yourself. You can't become yourself by yourself.
Right.
Understanding how we are bricks being built up into a dwelling place for God in the Spirit, you really need, there's a crucial way that the church together helps you to really see who you are meant to become and who this other person is meant to be.
Yeah. I think that's so huge, having vision for your life and having that vision of purpose and activity and not, no, you can't do this, but oh my gosh, like look at what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Like look at how you can serve God. Look at how you can do this together. And I think that's the point, is that you're following Jesus and living your life openly before him. And there won't be the let's sneak off and do this, or let's do this, because you're living your life before God.
Yeah, and I think it was a priority for us, like while we were dating, and there wasn't any big heavy pressure. Like I asked you on a date, it wasn't like it was implied or inferred we were going to get married.
Right.
I mean, we were just checking this out. We were just seeing, and so we were at restaurants, we went to the zoo, we were doing things together. I think we were really just careful. We weren't going to be at my apartment or at your house just alone in the evening. I'm not there Friday at 1 a.m. It's like, no, we wanted to put some of those guardrails in place that would make it a lot easier for us to do it. And while continuing to be around our communities and other people who are, keeping us accountable and observing our relationship as it kind of unfolded. It wasn't, some off the radar secret thing. Everyone kind of knew was happening. We're watching this go on and we're letting it unfold with time. And I think all of this assumes that you have it in your head that I want to please God in how I approach this relationship. That's not some part of your life over here that's like, well, this is my love life over here. And then I'm going to, I love God and I want to serve God. But you're saying, no, I want all of that just to be an act of worship.
Yeah.
Like Paul said in Colossians 3, whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I think for you and me, we both said how we approach, how Levi approaches Jennie is a way to honor Jesus.
Yeah.
And we prayed on our first date. You know, my dad told me that first date you ever go on with a girl, stop and pray for a second. I want to honor and acknowledge Jesus's presence. And I think from ground zero, we both were seeing how we dated as worship, just like when we lift up our hands and sing Oceans, you know, in church.
Right.
Although there was not Oceans when we started
Not then.
dating.
Nope.
Maybe Lord, I left your name on high. Well, it was early Hillsong United, but I think that dating as an act of worship is really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So a little inside joke that we had was that we're going to Denver. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, yeah, we both just kind of laid out this idea of, hey, I'm heading to Denver. And Denver for me was, I'm going to walk with God. I'm going to fulfill my specific calling. And you have Denver as following God. And
why was it Denver?
And well, it was to the north.
Okay.
We lived in Albuquerque.
Right.
Denver was to the north.
Right.
We were both saying, hey, we're both headed north. And we're looking at each other and we're both heading north.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to deviate north to south in order to find a girl. And I didn't want you to deviate to south.
Yeah.
We both wanted to live lives of worship and fulfill our calling. And so through our dating, we both were using the language of Denver as something we were going to keep pursuing. And that if we both were going to agree that if we felt like our relationship together was pulling us off of that true north of Denver,
yeah,
that we would take that as a sign and a cue that the relationship needed to end.
Yeah.
And that dating, which was an experiment to see if we were meant to make this covenant, that was always agreed upon as being more important than, hey, I really like you.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny. I'm just remembering in emails, because we would write a lot in emails to each other, and just because of work and how we were in ministry and stuff. But your, what do you call it? Signature at the end was always automatically in awe of him. And even if you wrote like a note or whatever, you would always write in awe of him, Levi. And
unless it's in my journals, I was writing in Latin in my journals, ad majorem Dei gloriam.
Oh yeah,
to do what most glorifies God.
Yeah,
but
I just
emails,
remember that.
Him,
but I just remember that, and I remember that marked even just how I viewed you, and our relationship was just always being in awe of who God is, and I feel like that was a theme to even our interactions, even before we started dating, because those emails went back and forth when we were just serving together and we were friends. And I just remember that being a significant, like, small thing, but also big thing of just being aware of that's how you wanted to live your life, in awe of God and his glory. And it always challenged me and inspired me to do the same. And I think that even something as simple as that, reminding each other, like, where's your focus? How are you living in awe of God? I think that is a small but mighty thing.
Yeah, because it's a huge red flag if you're dating someone and you previously had this massive passion for God and a desire to build his kingdom and to use your job, to use all your gifts as a way to build God's kingdom and seek after God, because this life is going to end and eternity is forever. And your citizenship's in heaven, not on this world.
Yeah.
So it's not just about money. It's not just about clout. It's not just about the perfect vacation and having money for the whatever. Right? If you're like, no, my treasure is heaven, and I'm following hard after God, but all of a sudden I start dating someone, and I'm starting to pursue them, but they're not pursuing him, then that's a red flag, because it's going to erode my passion.
Yeah.
And it's always a red flag if you start drifting from what you used to be running towards.
Yes.
And so we both said, hey, we're going to try this dating thing out, get to know each other better without a big pressure. And I want to just reiterate that. Take the pressure off. And I think the pressure comes off more where you take the time to get some friendship going before you ever even take that first date.
Yeah.
Hide some of that feeling in your heart for a while. Have the crush. And some people, I think that it's either I need to act on it right away, or go too long, take the pressure off, build that friendship, and then at some point, yeah, ask her on a date. Say, can we go to coffee? Can we get to know each other a little better? I think there's nothing wrong with that. I want to just explore, just get to know you. You seem like an amazing person. I want to get to know you.
Yeah.
And as that happens, there's going to come, kind of like some indication or not that there's something maybe there to pursue.
Yeah.
And to get to know each other better and being honest about that. I don't really know. I know I want to serve God, but you seem like you're really awesome. Could we get to know each other a little better and have some of that kind of awareness in your mind that you want to be upfront and honest with your intentions and not spiritualize the breakup if it's happening. Don't be like, oh, well, God told me. Come on. That's so lame. Don't put it on God. He told you. Just tell him, hey, I'm just not.
Doesn't
really,
seem like it. Yeah.
I'm really not that seeming like this is really going anywhere. And so I just want to protect your heart. Let's just be friends. I think being honest about
that's huge.
And not just kind of ghosting them and not just, saying nothing, but this isn't happening. And not letting that be like that's the worst thing in the world, that we now, have to change addresses, change gyms, change dry cleaners, where it's just is some horrible thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Good things.
What else? What else could be some good principles? What about online dating and all of that? Because I think that right now we're dealing with that in a way that we weren't really seeing that even really much of an option in the early 2002.
No, it might have been a thing, but yeah. I don't know. I don't know, honestly. I don't know if I know anyone in my life.
Because it is the most common way, I think, and the fastest growing way for people in our country to meet someone.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on it?
I think God can use anything, and I think he can connect people in any way.
Yeah.
I think you've mentioned this before. I think when wanting to have community around you and eyes on your relationship, that is more difficult because you are coming from two different communities. So like your friend group doesn't know this person, their friend group doesn't know you. So it's like I feel like you have to work harder for that friendship and for connection and for people that and love and want their wisdom in your relationship. I feel like that would just be harder.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying you're going to have to be even wiser in what you put in place. That
probably more proactive.
Be more
and like,
proactive.
Hey, I'm meeting with this guy. Like, come with me. Or I don't even know. I don't know exactly how this would work out, but I think it just takes more intentionality and more wisdom and more eyes.
The interesting thing is that the data bears that because of online dating, that there's more, there's a greater abundance of a pool of people to date from than there's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be you dated people from that, a friend or a family introduced you, or they were from your city. So someone at work introduced you, someone at church. But now it's not just I'm dealing with the pool of men or women in the greater Boston area, but in all of the United States and Hungary and Greece and the whole world. I literally
That's
can be
overwhelming.
connected with ever. But you would think with the abundance of options, people would be happier with it. It's the opposite. The newest data I've seen says that people say in the last 10 years were really the skyrocketing of online dating since eHarmony and Christian Mingle and however many other, and then of course you have all the apps. That in the last 10 years, people say dating has gotten harder, not easier because of that. And that 3 out of almost half, not 3 out of 4, almost half say that it's difficult to find someone, even with all those options. So it's almost like that paralysis by analysis is coming from so many options out there, as opposed to the resting and just trusting, that God's gonna connect them. And even our story,
Yeah.
you're from California, I'm from Colorado. We met in New Mexico. God saw the ways he needed to bring that together,
Yeah.
and like you said, God can, of course, use online dating.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to, like you said, be proactive to make sure that the right things are in place to help you evaluate, eyes wide open, during the observation phase of dating, to see really if this person is someone that God would have you choose.
I know. And I wouldn't say this is how you should do this, because I'm not God, but I just feel like the best place to meet your spouse is in church. And I know that percentage is becoming less and less. 2%,
supposedly sub 2%, the amount of Americans who are married who say, I met my spouse in church.
Yeah. And that's sad to me, because I feel like that's the best place I feel like it's the priority of what's most important. And I think this is even, like, I see this in examples of families who move across the country, but don't plan or try to seek out the church they're going to be a part of first. Like, I think when you are moving to a new place, if that's a priority for you, of being plugged in and finding a place to serve as a family, that's so huge. Some people will just move to a place and then they're scrambling to figure out, like, oh my gosh, is there even a church in this city? And how do I, and it's like, I think it's that kind of thing too. It's like
ready, fire, aim.
Yeah. Obviously, like I said, God can do whatever and he can lead in any way. But I think it really also comes down to if you're letting the Holy Spirit lead in your life. And I think for me, moving from California to New Mexico was something that as I was seeking the Lord, felt like this is what God's leading me to do. And it didn't make any sense in the moment. I had made the decision, but then in the moment, so much was going on in my life that it was like, why on earth am I leaving my family? Why am I in the midst of 9/11? Why am I moving to New Mexico? Like, this doesn't make any sense, but I felt the pull of the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
And I think that is so huge and really makes all the difference in the world in connecting with people in relationships is, are you listening to God? Are you letting the Holy Spirit lead in your life? Are you sensitive? Are you like Samuel saying, here I am, God, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. Am I saying to God, here I am, send me? Like, I think that will change everything if we're just in that zone of, God, whatever you want me to do, I will do.
Yeah. And you're going to attract someone who's in that same space because that's where you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think had you not been there, I would not have been interested in you because I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we both found each other at that same spot.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the confidence you can have, just giving your all to God in whatever that looks like. And you're going to end up attracting someone who's at that same space. I also do want to say maybe I don't know, an online dating thing. I don't know that you or I would have clicked each other, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we joke about it, but like I've said before, like when I was, writing up a type, I don't know that I would have described you. You're better than anything I could have imagined, but you're also not exactly what I would have expected.
Yeah.
And so I think we can order up where online dating kind of allows us to feel like we're on Amazon a little bit. This is the spouse I want. We might not realize exactly what we need. We stop with what we want.
Yeah.
Wow. And when does God ever do what we think he's going to do? And so I think maybe we take a little bit of his part out of it when we start saying, well, this is exactly what my type is, what I'm interested in. And I think we also perhaps overlook those who God might have that would make tremendous spouses, tremendous grandparents to grandparent alongside with, but we're so focused on the superficial, and
Totally.
or on some perceived sense of compatibility.
Yeah.
And we both love the Tim Keller quote that no two people are compatible. Some people are just really, really, really the wrong people to marry, but everybody else is just still regularly incompatible.
Right.
And
I love that.
And I think, we are incompatible. We both have different ways of doing things. There's so many things about us that we bump on. Volume of music, what movies we let our kids watch, all these things. Like I think, PG-13 means 5. You're like, I think PG-13 means PG-13. And we both have issues all the time with things we're not compatible on, but we're compatible on
the most
on
important
the bigger things, the most
Yeah.
important things.
Yeah.
And I think we take the pressure and we put it to undue levels when we're expecting to be completely compatible at every possible level.
Totally. And I think going back to in the olden days, quote unquote, we would have just the people who were in our spheres of life that we could choose from. And I think that as we dive in, as we're all into what God has for us in the place that he has us in, I just think that he's going to lead us to that person. And I know that you and I met when we were 20 or 19, but and then we got married when we were 21 and 22. But I just think that as you're doing what God's called you to do, he's going to lead you to the people and the person that he wants you to be with. And so whether that does mean you feel a strong pull to move to New York to be a part of something that God's doing there, or to be a missionary, or I don't know. I just feel like if God's leading you to something and to be all in that, he's going to take care of it.
Yeah.
So that's just in our experience. And
we're not trying to be prescriptive
or
descriptive with some salient application points, right? Hopefully disregard any of this that's not from God, right? If eat the fish, spit the bones. But what we saw God do was, as we focused more on who we were each becoming, and we didn't look ever to each other to do what only God can do, because we already had those issues settled and satisfied, we've been now able to serve together as partners, co-heirs of the grace of God, right? Like Adam and Eve, now continuing on in our callings with those daily appointments to walk with God in the cool of the day. And we're looking to each other like, you're amazing to serve with, you're amazing to do this journey with, but you don't complete me and I don't complete you, and you're not an idol to me. So I'm not looking to you to make me happy. I think that's a train wreck. And every song tells you, oh, you got to make this person happy. It's like, I actually am better at making you unhappy, but we make each other laugh. We make each other sandwiches. But you're not able to make someone else happy. That's too much.
Right. And I think with that, that's been something that we've had to grow in and learn in too. I mean, I feel like even as we've been married almost 19 years, issues come up and things come up that it's like we're talking with our counselors and we talk through with each other. And I think that knowing that we're not going to have it perfect ever, but it's a process, and we're in progress of growing to be more like Christ. And I think that there's that, again, that taking the pressure off of we have to have all the answers and we have to do it all right and figure it all out perfectly, but it's grace.
Well, and I think we have trust with each other too, that we're going to each treat every other man or woman in the world as brother and sister, because we're husband and wife.
Yeah.
And we showed to each other it was a priority to focus on purity in the dating and the engagement phase.
Yeah.
So we were telling each other, I value God's authority over my sexuality. So you can trust that when you're in postpartum, I'm going to continue to trust God's authority in other situations. I mean, you're not worried when I'm on a business trip preaching or whatever else that I'm, be unfaithful to you, because we both have showed to each other those things. So I think these things matter.
Yeah.
And we really do believe God has a plan for each of you and your singleness, your dating, your marriage. And we're just, hopefully this helped us going into all this, and we felt a stirring from God to do it. We had never really kind of told our whole story in one kind of go, and then hopefully kind of put some of these things into buckets. So if it's been helpful to you, let us know. And if not, then move along. Move along.
Well, I would love to pray for you who are listening. And get you on to the rest of your day. Father, I thank you so much for this time. And I thank you for the one listening who you're working in their life. You are moving in their hearts. I just pray regardless of where they're at relationship wise, if they're in a dating relationship, if they're thinking about it, if they're wanting to, if they're not wanting to, wherever they're at, Lord, that they would look to you first and foremost, and that they would see how loved and adored they are by you and your purpose and your plan for their life. And so I just lift them up to you now. I pray that they would walk securely and confidently in you, and that the search for the right one, trying to figure out the relationship thing, that they would give it to you and that they would surrender it to you, knowing that you have a plan and you have a purpose and you are in control. And I pray that they would trust you. I pray that you would grow their trust in you, that you'd grow, strengthen their faith in you, and that you would provide, that you would bring the right person at the right time, and that it would honestly just feel so natural because you are the one leading and you are the one working and providing. And I just pray that you would refresh their heart, refresh their mind, that you would be lifted up in their life, glorified in their life. We love you. Thank you for leading us and being our good shepherd. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.